courtyard theatre called Fox Hunting, which is all around youth crime and their personal experiences. And we also have lovely Jessica here, Jessica Plummer, who's got a foundation called Shawuan Sammy-Plummer, which is in honour of her son who passed away 3 years ago in January due to youth violence or crime, knife crime. An unprovoked attack, really, that's just really not necessary. And now we've got Christina joining us. Hello. Christina is she's an assistant psychologist, yes. And we've had you on before.
Yes.
And we had you on because you wrote an article in regards to mental health.
Yeah.
And you tell us about it. Yeah, bring yourself into it.
So, yeah, sure. So basically, I wrote an article, I think this was last month.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 2 months ago.
It might have been 2 months ago, actually. Yeah. I can't remember. But it was about 2 months ago, about knife crime and kind of looking at it from a mental health perspective and not just only focusing on, you know, the cliches, single parent household, low income family, low socioeconomic background. I wanted to focus on other areas because I felt like when people commit violent crimes, people of colour especially, when young black boys commit knife crime, their mental health isn't taken into consideration.
Yeah.
And that's not to excuse any of their behaviour. It's just when it's someone who isn't black, their mental health is always taken into consideration.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, they're questioned, okay, you know, what was their developmental background? Did they face any trauma? Did they face any difficult experiences that could have affected the way that they process life now? And those things, those questions are rarely asked. And I just felt that it was a bit unfair to just stigmatise these young black boys as opposed to actually finding out the root cause and actually helping them. That was,
okay.
I understand what she's saying, but to me they focus too much on the people who commit the crime, and we the victim are left to cope on our own. Because as a mother, during the time when Shawuan got stabbed, the police, because they needed all the evidence, everybody was with me. Nobody was thinking about what I was going through or my children. Nobody thought about that. Everybody was, it was more about Jamal. Okay. We went to court, it was the same. After he put in the appeal, everybody was saying, they did not take his age into consideration. What about us? We, the parents, what we are going through, who are thinking about us? It's like she's saying, I'm not against what she's saying, but why focus on these children all the time and forget about us?
I think what the point you're trying to make is that to before it gets to that stage.
Okay.
Yeah, so my thing is, it works both ways.
Yeah.
I think that in general, people of colour are not allowed, it's like we're not allowed to have issues with mental health. So something traumatic has happened to you, where is the support for you? What, you know, you shouldn't have to pay for counselling, you shouldn't have to pay for all of these things. Your son was murdered, but these things are not taken into consideration.
No.
And so it's on both sides. On one hand, these young men who are committing these crimes, they're not thought about, but also the victims are not thought about, and the effect that has on them. It has it's like a trickle down effect, if you know what I mean. It starts at one end and it trickles down. So if the victims don't get help, the people that commit the crime don't get help, nobody is getting help, and the cycle continues. So that's really what I mean when I say that mental health isn't being focused, because his mental health isn't being taken into consideration, and the effect on your mental health also isn't being taken into consideration. So nobody wins.
But then if the children are having a problem, like you say, it's up to you parents to make it your duty to try and get the help.
I think it's difficult though. Let's be honest, like in the black community, we don't really talk about mental health, and many people do not know what the triggers of any mental health issues are. And when we say mental health, people think like, oh, the big things like schizophrenia, psychosis. It could be just anger. It could be that you don't know how to regulate your emotions. But these things, they're very subtle differences.
Okay, hold on to that thought. Let's go on a quick news break.
ABN Radio, London's Afropolitan radio station.
More news, more information. This is ABN News on the Hour.
From the Sky News Centre at 9, hundreds more British troops could be sent to Afghanistan after pressure from Donald Trump. Reports suggest as many as 450 could be joining 600 already there in non-combat roles, but the plans have not been signed off. Security is tight in Windsor ahead of tomorrow's royal wedding. Last-minute preparations involving the armed forces have been taking place. Assistant Chief Constable David Hardcastle says there's a huge police presence there.
You'll see, whether you're on the trains, British Transport Police, out on the roads, our roads policing units. As you get into Windsor, our vehicle barriers will be up, you'll see officers out on patrol. When you're in Windsor itself, we'll have armed officers out, we'll have unarmed officers out, and we'll also be going through a screening and search regime if you're coming into the processional route.
It still isn't clear who'll walk Meghan Markle down the aisle after her father pulled out yesterday. Her mum's due to meet the Queen later. Donald Trump's trying to salvage a summit with North Korea, saying its leader could stay in power if he abandons nuclear weapons. Kim Jong-un has threatened to pull out of a meeting next month. The US president says any agreement would be different from one done with ex-Libyan leader Colonel Gaddafi in 2003, who was killed by Western-backed forces years later.
The Libyan model isn't a model that we have at all when we're thinking of North Korea. In Libya, we decimated that country. That country was decimated. There was no deal to keep Gaddafi.
An emergency meeting's to be held after 2 people died from Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The World Health Organization has raised its assessment of the public health risks to very high at the national level. Ariana Grande has described the Manchester Arena bombing as the absolute worst of humanity. She's told Time magazine it's still heavy on her heart every single day. In sport, Jack Wilshere says he should be in England's World Cup squad and could have made a real impact in Russia. The Arsenal midfielder was left out of Gareth Southgate's 23-man group. That's the latest. I'm Laura Safe.
More news, more information. This is ABN Travel News.
This is a travel news now brought to you by Travel for Media. So on the N25 junction 28 A13 Brentwood, so there is an accident, but I think it's now cleared. A219 Morden Road, Morton Milliton Road, there's a collision there. So 2 lanes are blocked due to a collision, and that's on Morden Road northbound at the junction. It says to approach with caution. And M25 junction 5, M26, A21 Seven Oaks junction 6, A22 Goldstone. There was an accident there earlier on, so I think it's now cleared. And A203 South Lambeth Road, and that's SW18 southbound at the junction of Vauxhall Grove Road, reduced to 2 lanes from 5, and this is due to a sewer repair works. So there are delays there. Although traffic is flowing, there are delays. And A30 Great West Southwest Road from A312 to Grantley Road, 24-hour road works and carriage due to a gas mains work. And I think that's it. No, A4 Piccadilly Westminster Half Moon Street. There are no signals working there, so no signals are under computer control. So so there are delays there on that way. And on the rails, revised late night southwestern services from Monday 14th to Friday the 18th of May. So if you want to check the rail website to see which lines are affected before you make your travel. And on the underground, all services are good apart from minor delays in the overground, and it says also on the tram there are minor delays. And that's the travel news brought to you by Travel for Media.
More news, more information. This is ABN Travel News.
So, okay, we're here on the Discourse, and I've been talking to Christina and Jessica Plummer. Jessica Plummer lost her son, Shawuan Sammy-Plummer, 3 years ago. So she's talking to us about the aftermath of that and also the foundation and what she's doing. And Jessica's raised a really important point in regards to parenting. I think throughout this series, that's what a lot of people have said. It's about how you parent your child. And it's from inception, who you're even choosing to have a child with as well. It all matters. Family unit is important. You can't turn a blind eye. You need to pay more interest in what your child is doing. Mothers seeing children coming in with new stuff and not questioning, that's already, you're going wrong there. With you, Christina, you're talking about the mental health in terms of trauma within family breakup, how that affects people in general, and also you spoke about anger, dealing with anger, children coming committing crimes due to certain things that are happening, and as a community how we're not really good at looking or seeking help. And what are the triggers? We don't know what the triggers are. What are the triggers?
I mean, it's different for every person, but you know, for example, you know your child, right? So if your child is usually someone who's bubbly, who's having, you know, who's really animated when they come back from school. Mom, Dad, this is what I've been doing, and then all of a sudden that stops. That's something that's very subtle and it can be easily overlooked, and you don't know what they're dealing with inside. So that's, you know, one of the triggers. Becoming self-isolative, so they're isolating themselves from their family, from their friends. They don't want to go out, or they're not spending as much time at home anymore. You know, it's a normal thing for teenagers to want to spend time with their friends, but it's very important also to notice if, you know, for example, they are seeming to avoid being at home and seem to avoid their family and conversations with their family. That could also be something that could be a trigger, but it varies. There's such a wide spectrum.
It's funny you say that, because when we had David and Chris in, they spoke about being robbed. From when they started secondary school, like somebody coming up to them, but they saw it as normal. That's not normal.
No, it's not normal behavior.
Being robbed and somebody saying give me your phone, or attacking you with a knife or threatening you with a knife is not normal behavior, but these children see it as normal.
I think because the thing is, sometimes our environment, because things happen frequently in our environment, we think it's normal, but they're not the same thing. So if I'm in an environment that's highly violent and everybody is violent towards everyone, it still doesn't make their behavior normal. It's still dysfunctional. It just happens very frequently.
We've got a caller. Let's try and see. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Good morning. Who's calling?
Good morning. My name is Bright.
Your name is?
Bright.
Your name is Bright. Okay.
Yeah. So I was listening to the discussion, and I think one of you guys was sharing about
your line is really bad. We can't really hear you very well.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm talking about your guest who shared a story about Japan.
Okay.
Yes, and she did say that sometimes it's very good for parents to search their children's.
It's important for parents to search their children's bags. Yes, Jessica said that.
Yes. I second that, and I think that parents should do that without the children knowing.
Parents should search their children's bags without them knowing.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
The reason being that, you know, if the children are aware that my parents or my dad, my mom's going to search my bag, and I've got something which I don't want them to see, I'll hide it.
Okay, so children are more likely to hide stuff if they know that their bags have been searched.
So you wouldn't get to know
it's true what they say.
But it's a bit unavoidable though, because if my parents search my bag without me knowing and they find something, they're gonna confront me about it. So from that moment on, I'm still gonna. If I know now, okay, that my parents are gonna search my stuff, so I'm gonna.
Okay, sorry about that. Go on.
Yeah, so all I'm trying to say is that, you know, if you really want to know the true person, like your son or your daughter very well, you don't have to let them see that you are searching their bag, because they will try to hide it, and you wouldn't know the true people, like how they are truly. So if you really want to know that my son or my daughter is in this kind of thing, then you have to know that.
Okay, we can't hear you now, but I think I know the point you're trying to make. So, Bright, the line is really bad, so I'm going to cut it off, but I'll reiterate what you just said in regards to people searching the bags, and then we'll discuss it. But thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. So what Bright was saying was that you should, if you check your children's bag, then they'll know that you've been checking the bags, so they're more likely to hide things because they know that you're likely to check the bags.
It is true, because sometimes what they do, especially, it depends on where you live, they tend to hide the things in, maybe if you're near a park, they will hide it there.
Yeah,
But that's what I'm saying too. That's what I'm saying.
Avoidable though, because like I said, if I'm hiding something and for example, taking my background into consideration, if there's something that my parents find that shouldn't be there, they're going to confront me about it.
Yeah.
So if I'm really determined to still do it, I'm still going to hide it because you've already told me that you're checking my things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's a balance. I think you need to check as a parent, you need to check your children's things, especially when you're suspecting that something is going on. However, there's also like having a conversation and building that relationship with your children where you trust them enough to have a conversation and discuss these things openly and say, look, what's going on with you?
Exactly.
It's something like, I found this, sometimes we're going all guns blazing and we don't actually have a conversation.
It's more of a confrontation.
Yeah, it's a confrontation. You know your children, you know what they're capable of and what they're not capable of, and you know when something's not right. So
we've got another caller now.
Yeah, sure.
Hello, morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Shanette. I'm calling about searching bag as well.
Okay.
Morning.
Hi, fella. I search my children bag. My daughter's going to be 20 soon.
Your daughter's going to be 20 and you still search her bag?
I go even into the phones. My son is 18. I've got a 13-year-old going to be 13 soon. I search the phone. I search the bag. I turn up at school.
But they're 18. They're adults.
Don't adults do things as well that keep from the parents?
Okay.
Yeah, so as I said, you have to build a trust relationship. So they will tell me things like that people don't expect teenage or kids to tell them.
Yeah.
Get in trouble at school, he'll come home and say, Mom, I done this. He don't wait on the schools to tell me that he done something because he knows I will turn up at his school.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Relationship with your kids to know that we're open enough. Yes, I'm going to go in your bag. You turn up with something. You can't turn up at my house with something that I didn't buy, that I don't know about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to know where you get that thing from. How did you get it? Who give it to you? You need to take it back.
I couldn't agree with you more.
How long have you been searching their bags, and when did they start? What made you want to start searching their bags or their belongings?
That's just me, and I think it's the way I was raised. And we have to build a trust because my older kids, I didn't grow up with them. Like, they grew up back home.
Okay.
And even when I used to go home, I'm in the room, I'm searching, I open the phone, I need to read the messages to see if they're saying anything that I don't want to know.
Okay. But is that not lack of trust? Because if somebody's looking through my phones and...
No, it's trust. It's trust. Trust me, it's trust. And I have to be on every social media that you're on. Sometimes I don't say, come on, Mom.
Okay.
You want to know everything. Yes. I'm your best friend, your sister, everybody you want.
Exactly.
But I think it also depends. If you have a good relationship with your children, like if it doesn't affect your relationship with your children is what I mean. Because if you're still close with them and they know that you're doing all this, it means that you have that sort of relationship with them. I mean, I'm not saying that I would do that, like when I would have children and they're 18, 20, maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. But I guess the point is that she has a relationship, like from what I'm hearing, with her children, where she's able to do these things and they're still able to have a trusting and loving relationship, and she would also be able to know if something's wrong with them.
For me as well, it showed me that I tell them, I said, I've got your back, no one else have your back like I do.
Okay.
So you have to be able to trust me with all. No one else is your friend. I'm your friend. I'll be the realest person to you. So you have to be able to trust me and open up to me. Because they pretend with you, but I won't pretend with you. So you have to lay it down and show me that, yeah, you're real, I'm real. After a while, then I'll stop maybe. But then you have to show me that you're real.
Okay. And, we're talking about mental health because it's Mental Health Week. What do you think about how we are within a community in regards to, assessing or knowing our mental health, I guess. What do you think about that, especially within children?
I think it's affect a lot of black girls, black people, like girls, boys, because I personally, I've got clients where kids like hurt themselves.
Okay, self-harm?
So it's like, come on, there's nothing about that. They think that you're crazy, but then they don't give them help that they need. But for instance, the white person do that, or mental health.
Okay, so we don't acknowledge it.
No, so.
At all.
When you think of like certain mental health issues, like I don't know, eating disorders or self-harm, you don't think of black people at all. It doesn't come into mind.
It does happen in black people.
It does.
Because I've got people who literally, they say to me like, they'll hit and the kids, like, I've got a client, her son, like, hold on, write stuff and he hold on to it, like, stuff that hurting him. I have to lift it up, to try and get help for him. Try search and get help for him, because the doctors, like, they just go and put them on pills. Pills not gonna help.
It's a big issue.
You need someone to talk to.
Why do we, but the thing is, we're all humans, right? So why do we see it as black problem, white problem? Because we all have issues.
We need to not make it about the race.
Yeah, it's about the human race. We all have issues.
But the thing is, we have to acknowledge that there's this
maybe
perception.
culturally.
But
there's this perception with that black people don't have these issues. Everybody has them.
Yeah, but black people, the problem with it is black people tend to cover things because of their pride.
Yes, they do.
They love to hide things, and what they do, they come out and they cuss everybody, especially on social media. They go on the news, wherever, they just criticize people, but it's not about the race.
Everybody deals with it. We're not superheroes. We have, I think, honestly, black people have the complex where we think, oh, we're so tough because we can deal with this abuse and that abuse and we don't break down. It doesn't make sense.
It makes it worse.
It makes it worse. It doesn't make any sense. We're all
in the long run, it's harmful to us because we keep things in, because we think that we're too proud. I won't tell that one anything. I won't say anything to that one.
It's our pride.
Trust me, I need help. I'm gonna ask for it, because I mean, this time is modern times. Things like you will kill yourself with things that you harm yourself. Why do you think so many people jumping from the train to go and jump off somewhere? Because they're hurting inside and there's no one to talk to.
We cover it up. We hide it. It's like,
but we need not to. We need to come out like everybody else. Instead of we hiding, come out and talk about the problem. There must be one person somewhere with an organization that we can go to and tell them we have the problem. Instead of we feeling ashamed, we don't want this one to know. Come on, at least we are addressing the problem that we have. Instead of covering it.
It's our community, isn't it? We're collectivist culture, so like we care a lot. We put a lot of emphasis on the opinions of everybody else and our how people will perceive us. So it becomes.
Isn't that the biggest killer though?
Yeah,
you overthink what other people might be thinking.
I think it's a really huge problem, because what happens is, like in a family, for example, no one individual is bigger than the family's reputation. So if somebody is going through something in the family, it doesn't matter, because the perception that everyone's going to have of the whole family because of you, it becomes a problem. So your issues don't matter. They're not as important as the family reputation, and that is a really, really big problem. And we're ashamed to have mental health problems. First of all, mental health is universal. Everybody has it. If you have a cold, I'm not going to say you have poor health. You've got a cold. Do you know what I mean? If something bad has happened to you, you've lost your son. If you now develop depression or have depressive symptoms, even for a short period of time, you're not unwell. You've been through something. It makes sense. It's normal. Everybody catches a cold in winter. Do you know what I mean? And I think that when we hear mental health, it's like, oh no, I'm crazy. Something's wrong. Like, no, everybody goes through things. That's life. You know, it doesn't mean it's going to be forever. It's not going to be there forever. It may be. It may not be. There's a difference between having depression and clinical depression. They are two different things, but it's about acknowledging that things happen in life and they will affect us. It's about how we deal with them and acknowledging that it has an effect so we can counteract that. But if you don't acknowledge the problem, it's just going to grow and fester and it gets worse.
You see, the problem with everybody, okay, we look at white, we look at black. You know that white people are no different from us. They're exactly the same as us. It's just the different pigment. You understand? But they do things just like us. You understand? So this is where we go about things the wrong way. You understand? We think we're different. We're the same.
We're all the same people. Thank you so much for your call. You know, it's been good, and I guess we've had two callers say, search your children's bags.
Search their rooms.
Search their bags. And I say, how old you are? If you're living in my house, I'm searching your bags.
Living in my house. you have to abide by the rules. Sorry, I'm the boss.
Yes. Thank you so much. Okay.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right, let's just go on a quick break.
ABN Radio.
London.
London's Afropolitan radio station.
She goes to my church.
She's Jamaican, isn't
Yeah. She goes to my
I
church.
can tell even from the first time I said hello to her. And you too, you're Jamaican, aren't you?
No, I'm St. Lucian.
No, I'm Nigerian, but she comes to my church though.
Oh, okay.
I'm St. Lucian.
Oh, okay. I knew
Nearing
it
of
was
this
a Caribbean accent. Sorry. Because although I'm born here, my family's Jamaican.
Yeah, nice English, but
so I like the fruit and orange.
I like wholemeal bagel with a bit of cream cheese on it and some bacon and then some avocado. And on the side, I like to have
fried egg with bacon, with baked beans, toast.
I normally take my cocoa. Yeah, I'm a Ghanaian. I'm a typical Ghanaian, so I like my cocoa. I'm not too sure. I normally don't eat breakfast.
It doesn't matter how you like your breakfast, or you may not like breakfast at all, but you will love the sound of your radio when the breakfast is Afropolitan. Watch out for the new ABN Radio Breakfast Show with Efuadum. ABN Radio, London's Afropolitan radio station.
Consider that life wasted. Consider the heart ripped out of a family. Consider the potential never realized. Are these the things you consider when you carry a knife? It's not about street cred. It's about staying alive. Drop that knife. Save your life.
Where they bring me joy and blessings, you know that I love you, and I can't wait to say I do. But before we walk down the aisle, I just wanna let you know that you're the finest. May you be the finest thing I've seen, you're the brightest. The way you shine, the bling bling, you're the highest. When it comes to rating, you're the lead. My princess, my only one lover, and I just wanna let you know that no one be like you. See, I don't go different places, I've seen many faces. No one be like you. See, they cannot replace you, cause you are a blessing. No one be like you. You're driving me crazy, cause you are my baby. No one be like you. No one like you, one like you. No one like you, one like you. No one. About a year ago, before I met you, yeah, there was no possibility for me to be rescued. But thank God I found you, yeah. I cannot do without you. Now since I go different places, I've seen many faces that cannot replace you. With you I gain many blessings. Girl, you want my life, you're the finest. Yeah, now you be the finest thing I've seen. You're the brightest. The way you shine, you bling like me. You're the highest. When it comes to rating, you're the lead. My princess, my only one lover. And this is not to let you know that no one be like you. See, I don't go different places, I've seen many faces. No one be like you. I cannot replace you, cause you are a blessing. No one be like you. You're driving me crazy, cause you are my baby. No one be like you. No one like you, one like you. No one like you, one like you. That's what we say. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. No one like, oh yeah, one like, oh yeah, no one like, oh yeah. No one, yeah, you're the finest. Can you be the finest I've ever seen? The way you shine with the bling like green. Hey, when it comes to renting, you're the lead. My princess, my only one lover. Girl, I guess it's time to let you know that no one like you. So many things like you. Everything without you, there's no possibility. There's no positivity. Always negativity. Ain't gonna about you. Hey, you are my everything. You are my destiny. This is reality. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You're listening to The Discourse with me, Esther Alade, and that was P Square, No One Be Like You. And Jessica's like, I like that song. And I'm like, I'm so glad I picked it. I just randomly picked it. So I'm glad I'm making you happy for the day, Thanks. Jessica. So we've been talking on The Discourse about youth crime and in particular mental health awareness. Jessica here is in the studio and so is Christina. Christina is an assistant psychologist. And you can join the conversation by calling 0208 670 7300 or 0208 191 7078, or you can text us on our WhatsApp number 07887 475 940. Follow us on our social media platforms as well, and that's ABN Radio UK, Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And I just need to let you all know that ABN, UK's favourite black broadcast star, is moving from Sky Channel 235 to Channel 195. Well, we've moved actually from the 1st of May to Channel 195, and ABN is still available on Virgin TV on Channel 842. Don't miss a moment with us. Do you guys watch ABN?
No.
Well, you better start.
I'm going to start. You guys, I'm here. I'm going to start.
Yes. So you can watch us on Channel 195 on Sky, or if you have Virgin, it's Channel 842. Nice, right? Okay, so we've been talking in depth. We've had good phone calls, actually. Thank you for the callers who called in. We had Bright call in, and we had another lady. Jeanette, who you said goes to your church.
Yes.
We like that people are supporting. And they both agree with Jessica that, yes, you must search your children's bags. Yes. Search their rooms, search everything. As long as they're living under your roof, you have to search their bags. But then we're speaking about mental health. So if you notice a difference in your child, how do you then deal with that? If you notice something in your child's room, in your child's bag, how do you then deal with that? How do you sit down with that child and speak to them? Because we know from certain cultures, you know, it's do as I say. I don't even want to hear anything. You know, sit in that corner. You be seen but not heard. There's no dialogue. There's no like, what is going on? How are you? What is really happening? You know, some parents find it hard to get to the emotional crux of things. So what would you advise as a psychologist?
I would say to always lead with empathy. Like, even if your child is doing something wrong or you find something that's extremely worrying, try as much. It's very hard. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be angry. Sometimes they need a little bit of anger, but there also needs to be a balance of empathy and understanding, and ask them questions. Like, you know your child, and if you don't have conversations with them, you don't even know their personality. You know, knowing your child's personality is very important. So if one day they come home and they're acting strange, it's not like they're off the walls acting completely depressed, but something small has changed. They're not talking as much. They look a bit sad. They're isolating themselves a lot more. They're avoiding eye contact. They're avoiding their parents, their family. They're not engaging in conversation. They're not eating dinner with things that these are normal things that seem like they're not a big deal, but they are. That's how it presents, especially in kids. They're not gonna, you know, just for example do something drastic. It doesn't always start like that. It's very gradual. You need to
make it your duty now. Let's change the way we approach our children. They leave in the morning. Good morning. how are you? Did you have a good night rest?
Yeah. Show them affection.
Right. When they come in, ask them how was school. You had exams. How was your exam? It's like Kyla leave in the morning to go to school. She's doing her GCSEs, and in the morning when she's leaving, I'll say to her, okay, Kaiko, remember to stay focused. You have the questions. Read the questions. Try and understand the question. If you don't understand it, leave it and go to a different question. Now, when she come in from school, I would tell her the same thing. How was the exam? How did you think you do?
You're checking in.
Do you understand? How was your day? What did you do? You know, get
so small, but it's so important. Like, when I was growing up, I mean, even now, I'm not like a fully fledged adult yet. At least I don't want to think I am. But you know, even now, like going to work and stuff, my parents they ask these questions, and at times it's like, oh my god, why are you asking me the same question every day? But it's important.
Like my son, we have a phone call. Oh, okay. I almost forgot actually. Can you put your headsets on?
Yeah, sure.
So we don't forget Bright is on the line. Hello, Bright. Sorry.
Hello.
We got deep into our conversation. Did you call earlier on?
I called earlier on, but you couldn't hear me properly.
Okay, yes.
I wasn't able to make my point.
Okay, let's hear your point.
So I was saying that in terms of searching your children's stuff, it's quite important, which most parents possibly do it, but they don't do it right.
Is there a right way to search bags?
Yeah, because the reason why I'm saying that is, you know, children nowadays have two different characters. When they come home, they are different people. When they go out with their peers, they are different people. I've seen a lot of the youth, which I know personally. Yeah. The kind of stuff I know they do outside is different from how their parents think they are at home.
Oh, that's true. That's different.
So in order to know exactly how your child is, that's why I said that you have to be discreet about searching your child's stuff. Okay. So that he or she doesn't know initially that you are doing that. Because if he knows, he's going to hide it before he comes home. But in order to know who truly he is, you have to search it without his knowledge. And then you find out exactly what he's been doing outside from home. Because most of the children do a lot of bad stuff, but they come home and they pretend they are angels. And the parents also think, wow, my son is an angel. But your son is really not.
That could definitely be a thing.
So when you finish that, the initial stage, you can do it maybe for a month or a week or two, just to be sure that this is a consistent problem. This is a consistent thing that he's been doing. Then you can approach him and then talk to him. From there, I'm sure he will know he's been searching his past.
Sorry to cut you, babes, but at the same time, we need to make it our duty to know where our children are. Because you have a lot of kids, when they finish school, they will go and stand outside McDonald's and create a lot of problem, disrespecting people. Yeah. You understand? So at the same time, okay, yes, they have a phone. Make it your duty to know where your child is, where your child is going, and your child's supposed to be in at a certain time, not 10 o'clock on the street patrolling the road, because they're not no police officers, they're children. They have to be kids.
And I also think, you know, if you create an environment in your home, I mean, I'm talking from my personal experience, if you can create an environment in your home where your children are free to be themselves, like they're free to express their personality, and that those sort of things aren't, you know, you don't get in trouble for being yourself, is what I mean. Then it makes it easier, because I remember growing up, okay, there was things I probably did that my parents didn't know about, but to be honest with you, the way that my parents brought me up, because I respected them a lot and I knew that they trusted me, I didn't want to, I stopped doing anything. So I stopped doing anything that didn't please them. I was not an underage drinker, because my parents never condemned it per se, but I knew that they didn't expect me to do it when I was underage, but they didn't say to me, you're not allowed to drink, you're not allowed to do this. It wasn't that, it was trust. But because with trust comes responsibility, I didn't want to disappoint them like that, and because they know me, they have conversations with me, they know my personality. If something was wrong, and to be honest, when I was doing things I shouldn't be doing, they noticed, and I thought I was hiding it. I really thought I was hiding it, you know. Maybe I'd go to my room, I wouldn't really, they knew, they noticed, because they have that relationship with me. So I think as much as you search your children's things, if your children are one way with you and another way with their friends, of course there's differences, don't get me wrong, but they shouldn't be a completely different person when they're around their friends and a completely different person around their parents.
Let's just get Bright to summarize. Bright, do you just want to summarize for us?
So example, the other lady said that you should know where your child is at every time.
Yeah.
How are you going to know that? Because you are not with them. They can lie to you.
Yes, but make it your duty.
If you call them, where are you? And he says, I'm at McDonald's and he's at KFC. How would you know that?
Listen, my son, let me tell you, my son that got stabbed, he used to say to me, Mommy, I'm in school and I'm in the library. You know what I used to do? I called the phone, and when I called the phone, he wouldn't answer. Then I would send a message because I know he was scared of the police. I said, I'm going to get in touch with the police because they can track you down. And then I would say to him, where in the school are you? Can you give a teacher the phone? And he will take the phone and give it to the teacher. If he go to the library, he will give the lady in the library the number, or I make it my duty to go and find him where he was. So they had to abide by my rule. You understand? Because remember, he's underage.
Yeah, that's very true. But I'm talking about a case where he's not in an educational institution, where when maybe he finished school and he's coming home and he called me and says, I'm on a bus, or maybe I'm walking down the street and I'm coming home, whereas he's sitting somewhere with his friends.
But I never, you see, I cannot answer to that question because I never had that problem with my children.
Exactly. So it's a general one. It's not just you.
Yeah, but we still, regardless what is happening,
is that children tend to lie to their parents.
But I think
not all the time. Not all the time. No.
I really think it depends on the relationship you have with your children. Your children. I did not feel comfortable lying to my parents. I just couldn't. I couldn't. I was also a teenager who wanted to do things that other people were doing. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I had a relationship with my parents, and it wasn't just easy for me to lie to them constantly. I'm here, but I'm really somewhere else. That was not my experience because that's the relationship I built with them. So
I think that's the point.
And I'm not sure that you go and stab somebody with a knife. Because
no, of course.
We are talking about those who would do that crime.
Yeah,
but I think what we're saying is
children who actually engage themselves in such crimes do lie to their parents, do hide stuff from their parents, and that's what we are talking about.
I think let me stop you there. We completely agree with you, but I think the point we've made this morning is that you as a parent has to really step in from the beginning. Yeah. So you have to understand the patterns, the behavioral patterns of your child. Yes. You've got to be more understanding in terms of communication, and the way culture is. Raising children, certainly maybe how we were raised in maybe Africa, is completely different sometimes. Sometimes it's a case of, you have to respect your elders, etc. But the environment here is very different. Children, I think, are stuck in between. They don't know, stuck in between cultures. So mothers, I think, have to adapt in regards to communication.
Not only mothers, the parents.
Parents, thank you, have to adapt in terms of how we communicate. But I like what Jessica said. From the beginning, from the way you bring up your child, it makes a difference. And your children also, when they go out, they're not only influencers, but they're also influenced by others.
And if they're like 13, 14, 15, at that point it's too late to parent them. Let's be honest. Like if you haven't really sown the foundation of a relationship with them, you can't. So if you don't have a good relationship with your children, or you don't know them, and they're doing bad things, you as a parent will have less power to really stop them because you haven't got that relationship with them in the first place. It can be very difficult, and it can lead to headlocks. Because if you have a good relationship with your family or your child, and they're doing something wrong, and you tell them off, you're angry because you have a good relationship with them. They're going to be more receptive to it.
And the children learn by we, the parents.
Yeah.
So they learn a lot by what we say, the way we talk. They will copy us. Because sometimes you'll walk down the street, and whether it's a black, it's a white. This is why I'm saying we don't put race into it. Yeah. We walk down the street, and then we'll meet a mother. Because that child is misbehaving, we'll be using the effing word, and then we'll be effing and blinding on the street. It's not setting a good example for them because they use that against other people. Yeah. So this is what I'm saying. As parents, we did not put our children on earth for the government. We chose to put children on earth, so it is our duty to make sure that our children is out there respecting people. So we have to teach them. There's nobody to teach them for us.
Okay. So Brian, let me ask you. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, can I just say that as parents as well, we should try to know our children's friends and who they are.
Exactly.
Because as much as you try to train your child in a very good way, they are going to stay with their friends more longer than you because they are in school most of the time, you are at work. And if he's friends with a child who's not with good behavior, gradually he would be converted to be with that child because they also want to fit in. Because when you're in school, we always want to be seen as someone who is more like with the masses. So if you are the only person who doesn't like doing certain stuff, which is really not good for you to do, they will be laughing at you, and you want to fit in. So you have to make sure that your children associate themselves with the right kind of people. Make their friends your friends, so that you know who they are exactly.
Let's talk about because we're talking about mental health. I want to make sure that we actually do cover that. What is your perception in regards to mental health within our community, and especially within young children?
Well, with mental health, there's this stigma when it comes to black people. Because most of the time when these crimes do happen, and it's a white person who committed the crime, they tend to look into his mental health more severe, like more deeply than a black person. So most of the time you hear cases like, oh, okay, this person killed this person, and the person who committed the crime is a white person, but it was due to his mental health. He's not very mentally sound. That was how come he committed such a crime. But when it comes to a black person, you don't normally hear that, which I think is not fair because most black people, most black children also suffer from mental health, possibly from abuse, and it has developed into mental health. From a lot of things, even from their peers, they can put these things in your mind that will make you feel you are not good enough, and mentally it will have an effect on you. So all these things happen. Some even commit suicide, and it's because of their mental health. They think that the world is not a place for them to be. They are not good enough to live, and why are they on this earth? And all of that. So I think that we should consider the black mentality as well. Our mental health is also important as a black people. So it shouldn't just be just for the white all the time. We black.
I don't think it is. I think we assume it's there, but we as a community, I think what I find is that we don't always seek help, and that's what we've spoken about consistently throughout the show. Is there's this perception of I don't want to be looked down on. Or people will talk about me. We overthink everything rather than actually getting help to fix the issue. So
there's help. There's help everywhere.
People don't do that. People don't.
But they're not even asked. So what Bright was saying, they're not even asked. So for example, when someone in America or wherever goes around commits mass murder, or what happened in their family home? They had this problem. This is what they went through. When someone commits a crime here, and they're black, let's be honest, those questions are not asked. And I'm not saying that having poor mental health is an excuse for violent behavior, because this is not. But it needs to be. You need to take those things into consideration. Yes, there needs to, because how are we going to solve the problem otherwise? If we just they're just going to throw them into jail. They come out and it's a cycle again. Nothing ever gets fixed, and there needs to be a deeper level of fixing that we need to do, not just stop and search. There needs to be
because the root of the problem hasn't been solved.
No, it hasn't.
If it's a mental health issue, that has to be solved. If that's not solved, then you take the person to prison and he comes back, that issue is still there. So he will go on doing the same thing over and over again, which won't help. So I think that as black community, we also have to be open with these things. Doesn't matter if people look at your family a certain way, you have to make sure that the actual problem is solved. Not just thinking about you being stigmatized or looked down upon or something like that. It's an issue. It's the same as being sick about something. It's a health issue, so it has to be solved. Maybe the person has to go for counseling, a few things, therapy and all of that, and gradually he or she will come out of it.
Okay.
It help everybody.
Thank you, Bright. Thank you so much for your contribution. It's been great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye. He makes a point. But so let's take it back. Mental health, we spoke about the triggers. So Jessica, I wanted to ask you, after your son passed away, what help have you received in regards to healing?
They started victim support started with a man who they started with Andre, because with this knife crime thing, and then you, the victim, they only kind of try and help the mom, but they don't think about the children.
Okay, the family.
They don't get they don't get much help. But Andre started, and Andre had the same problem like me, not being able to talk to the counselor who came, because it's like you going over the thing all the time, and it's like with you, and it's not going, because all I had to do was I was there talking about my son and not being able to cook, and the depression is just there. And then I started losing my hair and stuff. But the man came, and I didn't really like the way he was doing the counseling. It's like he used to Google the thing, and I didn't like it. And then after Google most of the stuff to tell me what to do. And in the end, what he did, I didn't see him for a good couple of weeks, and that was it. But when it started getting worse, like I was having a breakdown, the night I couldn't cope, I called a doctor, and then they put me in touch with some other people where the person was helping me, but I had to do it for myself. I had to ring and get proper help. I got bereavement counseling from a lady, and what she did, she gave me a buddy. It's somebody who comes and the person just sit with you. You don't have to talk about I don't have to talk about the problem with my son. I could talk about any other thing, and then she will then take me out. I had the choice, and then she would go out with me and say to me, don't sit indoors, because what I do is sit indoors, play the game, and look at the camera. But now I do things different, because I went to one meeting and I was able to meet up with some police officers who gave me a voice, and I was able to go into schools and do the talk. That's what I'm saying. We're not perfect. We will make mistakes. No one is. You understand? A lot of us, this is where, like, I'm coming back again and saying the police are not all that bad. You understand? We quick to criticize them, but you have, just like you have good and bad in everybody, you have a few that's helping. You understand? Because the police I work with, PC Adrian Peacock, he is helping, and I see the way he approached some of our black children, and he's not criticizing them or telling them off. He's trying to help them. But a lot of them, because they have that thing where they dislike the police, they would not come to the police and talk to them. But I find he's doing an excellent job, him and his team, which is PC Adrian, you have Dan, you have Claire, Toby, and Johnny. I am grateful for them, and I would like to say thank you for opening a door. They opened a door for me, and they gave me that voice where I'm able to go into school and try and educate children, try and tell them about what I am going through, and I would want for them to do good, and I would not like for their parents to go through what I am going through, because I'm telling you, it's not easy. I live with this thing every single day, and I have to go and get the help. I am still waiting for ICOPE to contact me for me to get counseling. And then I am using these children by going in there, being another mother to them. I know they have a mother, they have their parents, but I am that extra
to help you.
Another mother to help me deal with my grief. And plus, I've got 3 other children to deal with, which is my Chantel, my Andre. I still have them to help, and I'm not able to do that properly because I am so deep. Yes, I am so depressed. There are days I don't want to go out, but I have to. You understand? My health is no good. You understand? I am still suffering, and it's creating so much problem. It's costing, I don't know, it's like my body is just, it's like, it's just shutting down on me, you understand? And I'm fighting it. I'm not able to sleep, but then I still have to move forward. I still have to do things, and the way for me to do it is by helping and engaging with children, engaging with parents, and trying to make a difference.
We have another caller. If you want to put your headset on, and then we try and Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. This is who?
My name is Aaron.
Aaron. Hi, Aaron.
how you doing? I want to say a big shout out to you all for what you do. I want to say a big well done to Christiana for all that she does, and also want to my sympathies to Jessica.
Thank you.
I'm sorry for your loss. I trust the good Lord to help you go through this season and this process. In Jesus' name.
Bless you. Thank you.
Okay to see on radio.
Yeah, we're a Christian channel. Yeah, amen. We love prayers.
Right. So I'm not sure what part I may have missed, but as a parent also, I think we live in the days where parents need to be, there's something called intentional parenting.
Okay.
For so long, we as parents are used to entitlement. We want the government to help us take care of our kids. We have all these things that we have built up. Parenting has to be intentional, and if you're not going to be intentional, then God should never have given us these kids. Because the day God gave us these kids, it's like everything God gives us things as a potential. Our gift back to God is what we do with whatever He has given us. So God never gave us cars. God never gave us houses. God never gave us trees. What He gave us was potentials. Humans developed those things. So when God gives you a child, He gives you a potential. Our gift to God is what those kids turn out to be. So we have to take our time, especially as Christians, to find out what is the mind of God concerning this child, because we are custodians of this child. So every parent has to have some form of assessment as you're growing up with your child. Do you have a clear plan of the future you want for your children? Is that plan known to you? Is that plan known to your wife? Is that plan known to your community? Everybody must know what is the clear plan for this child. Our plans for our children's future, is it based on their traits, or do we want them to live the lives that we live, or become those things that we didn't become?
Doctor, electrician, accountant,
and all those things. So the moment you start fighting those kids already as a child, you're already abusing such a child. Do you know how many times a child is told no before they are 18? A child would have heard no, you can't do this 15,000 times before they are 18. And yes, 1,500 times. So you're already damaging that child. You're already from a very young age telling the child they can't stretch. And yes, you're doing it in love, but are you explaining why? And then we talk about environment. So you know that the area you live is bad for your children. For God's sake, move out.
Well, what if people can't afford?
No. You can't. That's an excuse. That's a cop out.
I don't think that's it. Let's defend people who are from disadvantaged backgrounds.
So let me explain.
Yeah.
Are you paying for where you are?
Say again?
Are you paying as a child? Are you paying so they can't afford it? So what price is better to pay? The loss of a child, is that a better price to pay? Whether you like it or not, in life you're either going to pay now or you play later, or you play now or you pay later.
I think
going to make a choice.
I think it's not even about necessarily the environment. It's like environment has a part to play, yes, but first and foremost, if the house cannot parent, that is the biggest issue. So what do we do? Because we're talking about solutions, and Jessica made a point earlier on that it's important as a parent to put your hand up if you're struggling.
Yeah.
So as a parent, if they're struggling, what avenues do they have? You're talking from a church perspective.
No, actually, I'm a coach.
You're a coach.
I'm not talking from a church perspective.
Okay.
So
how do these people get help? Because it's easy to say go and get help, but how do you actually get that help?
Learning.
How? No, but you cannot say learning. It's not.
Let me explain.
No, 1 minute before you explain, let me tell you something.
Right,
as a mother or a parent, should I say, why don't you say, okay, you know what? I meet that mother and that person is having problem in the house. Why don't you sit with that mother, find out what problem they have and then refer the person to one organization that's going to help the mother in order for that mother to get the help. So we cannot say learning. We need to.
You haven't heard what I'm saying. Just wait. There are 3 forms of learning. Knowledge, experience, mentorship.
Do you have children yourself?
Yes, 2. These things are things that are not taught in our community. It's not just learning from books. Find out who's going through your experience and start building the relationship with them.
Okay, let's take a step back. Let's take a step back. We don't have much time as well. You said learning, but the problem is, as a mother, as a parent, yes, you said it,
and they must always be in place at all times.
Okay,
so you're learning. You are getting experience and you're being mentored.
Okay, that's fine. Let me have a word. Let me speak. So what I'm saying is, and what we've acknowledged here is that it's difficult to take that first step when you know you need help. So how do people get to that stage of even actually saying, owning up that there's an issue, actually admitting that I can't deal with this child, I need help?
You know your child, right?
We assume that most parents do, but as we said, when I spoke to, let me stop you. When I spoke to two young men that came in earlier on, and David Alade made a point and said that when he got robbed from his phone, being taken off of him at the age of 13, he found it hard to speak to his mother, and a lot of the time his mum did not even know what was going on the streets. That the street life is quite fast. So some parents don't actually know their children. They don't know what's going on because they're busy themselves.
Let's go back to what I was saying earlier on. So at 13, the battle is already lost. So parents, you have not made the effort to build that relationship with your child.
Ooh.
I told my children.
That's a hard word. That's very accusing. You have not made the effort.
Parents, yeah, because let me tell you, I came from a Christian home. I had struggles with people trying to get me to smoke at a very young age. And I remember going to my father, who is a pastor, and my father told me, he said, listen, if people are trying to get you to smoke, you must have a relationship with them for that to happen. That was the wrong thing for my father to say.
Why?
Because what he's saying is he's refusing to take the responsibility to actually find out from me what's going on.
But if you're hanging around with people who are influencing you negatively...
But that wasn't the case. That's the thing.
Okay.
That was not the case.
So I guess the point is that his father didn't ask him
what was the issue.
But there was no background story.
Okay.
Exactly. There was no relationship. You understand? Okay. Parents, we need to make sure that we are building the relationship from a very young age.
Okay. Amen. We agree with that one.
That's intentional parenting.
Yeah.
You know when your child is acting weird. You know when your child is behaving differently. You should know. You will know the signs. God gave these kids to us as a gift. So you are the first custodian of somebody, you're the first person intuitively, especially when your child was a baby. You hear the moms, as a mom, the child is not speaking already, but you can tell something is wrong with your child.
This is where you raise them. You raise them not for yourself only, but for the whole world. Because remember, they'll be going out there and be doing things. And remember, the children are still representing us. Because when my son got stabbed, and at the funeral, I couldn't believe it. When the amount of people that approached me and said how Shawuan was a credit to me, and because of his upbringing, and the way one lady came to me and she said how Shawuan came to her and said, I'm not going to hurt you, I just wanted to help you with your bags. And this little boy was able to help the lady with a shopping bag to her door. The lady offered Shawuan money and he said no, my mom would not accept it, and that's not why I did it. Now Shawuan started from the age of 11 doing paper rounds, and then he worked his way around working with Tottenham, serving, and then he applied for the job in Waitrose. And imagine a manager talking to you, approaching you in church and telling you how your child, his behavior and the way Shawuan presented himself to that manager. It made me as a mother feel good. I walk into the bank. Chantel works with Santander Bank in Brixton, and I met the manager, and first thing the man said to me, this little girl is a credit to you again. How well-mannered and very well-spoken. Andre started his apprenticeship and it was the same. And as a mother...
we're saying the same thing. So you raise your kids well, right?
Yeah, because I raise them for everybody, not for myself only.
But then you raise a point. Jessica did say earlier on on that, she actually had somebody help her. She had to get parenting classes.
I did parenting classes.
Saying mentoring.
But because somebody said it to her.
Yeah, they told me that there was a problem, and then as much as I did not like what she said, because I'm looking at it like, listen, I'm looking at it that way, like, you know what, the lady said to me, Shawuan, I did not like it, because I'm looking at her and I'm saying, but you don't have a child, how can you tell me what to do? But I took it on board and I went. I've got my certificate to prove that I went and I attended the parenting classes, and I did.
I'm gonna ask you to round. I'm gonna ask you to round up because we need to go on a news break. Literally like 3 seconds.
3 seconds. Jessica, I think you're a great mom. What I said earlier on is this. What our community needs to understand, that learning is not just about...
I'm going to have to go on a break. I'm going to have to go on a news break. I'm going to have to
do what you need to do. Do what you need to do.
From the Sky News Centre at 10, Britain could be about to send hundreds of extra troops to Afghanistan. The Defence Secretary's asked the Prime Minister for approval to send another 450 soldiers to train local forces and bolster security. Our Defence correspondent Alistair Bunkle explains why they're needed.
There's been a lot of pressure on NATO to follow what America did and up its numbers in Afghanistan because of a resurgent Taliban, a more aggressive Taliban, because of fears that Islamic State are trying to establish a foothold in the country. And so this will be Britain's contribution.
The Queen will meet Meghan Markle's mum for tea later ahead of tomorrow's wedding. Final preparations are taking place in Windsor, as Simon English reports.
Hip, hip, hooray! Dozens of superfans spent the night camped out.
Came at midnight last night from Staffordshire.
Including Nancy from New York.
I arrived camping out on Wednesday afternoon. Yes.
Last-minute deliveries are coming in for the 100,000 strong crowd as police prepare for a huge operation outside the castle.
We'll have armed officers out, we'll have unarmed officers out.
Inside, the Queen's getting ready to have Meghan's mum over for tea later. Doria Ragland's already met some of her new in-laws, including Charles, William and Kate. She's Meghan's only relative at the wedding after her father pulled out due to health reasons.
Donald Trump has hinted that if North Korea doesn't agree a deal on nuclear disarmament, it could suffer the same fate as Libya. The secretive state has threatened to pull out of a summit due to take place in Singapore in June. A man has been stabbed to death in East London. The 24-year-old was found injured in Barking late last night, but couldn't be saved. A full investigation into Sainsbury's £12 billion merger with Asda is a step closer. The Competition and Markets Authority is gathering information from both supermarkets before a formal inquiry begins. In sport, Joe Hart says he's gutted not to be in England's World Cup squad, and it's hard to take after starting every qualifying game. The goalkeepers won 75 caps but have struggled this season. That's the latest. I'm Laura Saint.
You're listening to The Discourse with me, Esther Alade, this morning. We've got a heated debate going on over the phone. We've been talking about mental health, youth crime, and Aaron has decided to give us a hard time this morning. Aaron came on the phone and he's like, parenting has to be intentional. It's about the potential. It's God's gift, our gift. We need a clear plan when we're bringing up these children. Very important points you've made, yes.
Intentional parenting.
Yes, intentional parenting. So parenting on purpose, with a reason behind it.
You said it very well.
Yeah.
You said it very well. And that's what Jessica's done. That's what Jessica's done.
And unfortunately, Jessica's done that, and she was looking forward, and she lost her son. So I think it's the ripple effect of ensuring, like somebody else said earlier on in the show a couple of weeks back, it's not only about your child, but it's about the children that influence your children. And it's also the children that are out there. So with the show, what we're trying to do is make sure we have tools, or we have information that will enable people or parents who are going through the problem and finding it difficult to say, you know what, I don't know who my child is. I don't know how to handle what's going on. I don't know what has gone wrong. So hence why we're also talking about mental health, because David and Chris, who came in earlier on, said that the trauma of being robbed, you don't think about it, but it affects them. It affects their self-esteem. There's anger. There's things that have been built up that they're walking around and they're trying to have this persona and then saying, this will never happen to me again. So because you don't want that to happen to you, you then start carrying a knife.
Yeah.
Because you think that's protecting yourself, but it's not protecting yourself, because you don't think about the consequences. That if I actually use this knife, what's going to happen to my life?
Even if I
what's
get
going to happen
caught
to
with the knife.
Yeah, but what's going to happen to the person that I'm using it on?
Yeah, exactly.
And this is where parents need to pay more attention to their children and what they're doing. And parents need to stop covering for the children, especially in a case where they know this child committed the crime and that child is still under your roof, sleeping with you, knowing that this child harmed somebody. It's like the boy who killed Shawuan, and take for example the mother. No, she didn't know what was going on, and okay, yes, she know that she did know that the boy killed my son, and she kept it to herself. It's wrong. If you know something, your child did something, I know you feel bad, you feel ashamed, but you should be able to face the police or go to somebody, get the help, and say, you know what?
What if, like what Esther was saying, so you have a child and maybe you didn't have the best relationship with them, and then but you notice that something is wrong, something's going on with them. What do you then do?
You need to go and get professional help.
Okay, so Aaron, you were saying, because we're going to kind of free up the phone line. So what we spoke about was Jessica was actually approached by somebody and said, you know what, I think you need to get parenting help. So how can we intervene? Because we know sometimes it's difficult for people to say, you know what, I'm struggling. I can't deal with this child. I don't know what I'm doing. How can we then intervene?
Because we need to work closely with the schools, because remember, the children are not with us. And they're in school, and remember, when they're in school, the teachers are responsible for them. So if there's a problem in school and the teacher come to you and they tell you, okay, you know what, my child have a problem, you need to sit down with the teacher to find out about that problem and to find a way to solve this problem that the child is having. So maybe the teacher will say to you, okay, this child need the help, just take it on board, forget about yourself, forget about people thinking that, okay, you know what, this, that, this will happen. Forget about that and just concentrate on your child.
Yeah, Aaron, what kind of sum it up for us, Aaron?
Yeah. So, this thing, so unfortunately 13, 14, it's already a bit too late. This thing starts from a very young age. So I have a friend at the moment who we're very clear that, I mean, it's actually my godson, who you can see the signs already. You can see certain signs. He's 6 years old. And I've gone to the parents and I said, look, friend, this has to now become community parenting. Don't take this upon yourself alone to try and raise these children alone. We need to all get involved.
Yeah.
We're taking care of this child. But you can see the pride from the father and the mom. And, well, not the mom is a bit more open, from the father. And what I noticed was pretty much the whole of last year, he shut me off. So parents need to, so that's why I said intentional parenting. I didn't say that, I'm not coming to say that to you to say that you're not training your child well. I'm just saying you probably need more help. Let's all get involved. Where we come from in Nigeria or Ghana or anywhere, what you'll find out is it was community parenting. I'm a coach. I have a client whose son was not talking till the age of 2. And then they've been spending a lot of money on speech therapy. What happened was a family friend visited from Nigeria one day and was watching one of the TV programs and thought, hang on a minute, your child seems to act like this TV character. And that particular TV character does not say anything. He stops that child watching that TV program and this child is speaking. And yet for the past 7, 8 months, they've been spending money on speech therapy. There's a reason why therapists don't treat their children. There's a reason why doctors don't treat their kids, because they are blindsided. So we always need the help of our community. We always need the help of our people. So we need to start, and that's why I said it's intentional. My children don't go and will not go over to a friend, to any of my friends who are not training their kids the same way I'm trying to train my children. They're not going to have sleepover in that child's house. Never. They would only go to the same people that I understand we have the same type of values. And it starts from now. And I make that clear to my child from a young age. To say no. So one of my friends' children came over to my house recently. This will make you laugh. Came over to my house recently. These are 6-year-olds, and they came to my house, and the first thing they said was, "Uncle, what are we allowed to do or not do? Because here we know there are rules." 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
I laughed. I was like, "Wow!" So they already know. What they are saying is that there are no rules in their house. But when we come here, right from the door, the first thing he says is, "Uncle, where can we stay? What should we do? Because in this house there are so many rules." You start it from a very young age. You teach them order. You teach them to prioritize. You teach them to respect people. You create. I told my daughter from when she could speak, I said, "Look, if you ever lie to me, you're never going to get into trouble. You would only get into trouble if you lie to me and I find out."
Okay, so that's good. You've ensured that your morals, your morals are set, rules are set. Yeah, but it needs to work all around. But thank you so much, Aaron, and I think
thank you very much.
Your contribution has been very effective. It's been intentional. It's been purposeful.
All right, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was fantastic. So we I think we all kind of saying the same thing, and I'm conscious that we need to still kind of bring it around to the mental health part that we're talking about, and just making sure that we all understand the home, how it should be, the effects of it if there's a breakdown, when there's a breakdown in family structure, how that affects children as well. There's all of that to consider. But yeah, you agree with most of the things Aaron was saying, right? That's the sort of things you intentionally do. But unfortunately, your child was caught up innocently by someone else's child, I guess, maybe who didn't have the same sort of upbringing as your son, and there must have been something up with that child. No, there must have been an issue with him to want to take somebody else's life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but from the age of 13, come on,
he's been committing crime from the age of 13.
Yeah, and he left school from the age of 15.
Okay,
and he was able to talk about that in court like if it was nothing.
But the thing is, he obviously didn't think that there was anything wrong with that. Nobody told him that this is not normal behavior for a child. Like, nobody really likes school, but to drop out of school is one thing. No, children are naughty, but to commit crimes regularly from the age of 13, that is,
and was able to explain and tell them about the places he carried and knives and the amount of knives he used to walk with.
But people think,
and you have a mother. Where is that mother?
But young boys, they think sometimes not all of them, I don't want to generalize, but a lot of the time these things are seen as things to be proud of because it's a show of masculinity. I'm so hard, I'm so tough, and that's part of the problem also.
I think it's an attention thing though.
Yeah,
if they're not getting the right attention, then they seek it somewhere else to get affirmation or to get.
I think it's a mixture of things, because like when you think about what it means to be masculine, if you're living in it's to do with like power and also money. So if you're living in an environment where you don't have money, the only thing that you can get is power. And unfortunately, a lot of men, not all the time, but I guess society tells men that power comes from acting tough and hard and aggressive, and you don't have any feelings, and that's where your power comes from. And then it snowballs and it becomes a bigger issue. But really, I was reading up and I found that men and women and people of color who have a positive self-identity, who attribute their black identity or brown identity or whatever identity to positive figures, right, are less affected by these issues, like for maybe like racism and things like that, because they have positive identity like they can see positive representations of themselves. If you don't have that in young black men, there is nothing positive. Where do they get their power from? The power they believe
what do you aspire
to be? And their perception of power could also be different. I would say power is being a healthy individual who recognizes their emotions, who allows themselves time to be upset if they're upset, who gives themselves time to breathe, who works, who does all of these different things. But if you don't associate power with that and you associate it with something else, it could be detrimental.
Do you know, we've extended the show. We're meant to finish at 10.
Okay.
It's now 15:15, but we're going to go on a quick break.
Okay.
We'll come back and we'll round it all up.
Okay.
So, but thank you so much for being part of this. Well, let's go on a quick break.
The Discourse on ABN Radio, engaging our community with discerning conversation.
Join me, Esther Alade, on The Discourse, where we will be redefining perspectives with authentic analysis.
experiences.
Join the discourse from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on ABN Radio.
This Friday and every Friday on ABN Radio, London's Afropolitan radio station. Tune in to the new ABN Breakfast Show from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. The London City Show has evolved into an all-new breakfast show with sizzling slices of juicy newsy current affairs served with junior jumbo-sized convos on issues you should be aware of. What did I just say? The ABN Breakfast Show, the Afropolitan breakfast you can't afford to miss.
Consider that life wasted. Consider the heart of the family ripped apart. Consider the potential never realized. Are these the things you consider when you carry a knife? It's not about street cred or respect. It's about staying alive. Drop that knife and save a life. Gwenton Slowly, supporting all family and young people.
ABN Radio, home of Afrobeats. This is ABN Radio, projecting rich African culture through the power of radio.
It's here, the African Gospel Music and Media Awards 2018, celebrating excellence. On the 2nd of June 2018, at East London Arts and Music Main Auditorium, 45 Maltings Close, Bromley by Bow, London, E3 3TA, from 6 p.m, featuring Joe Beto, Diana Hamilton, Isabella, Called Out Music, Shekinah, Dena Mwanga, Afri David, Angel Bernard, Judith Sefuma, Blessing Ali, and Reaper's Choir. For tickets and information, visit AfricanGospelMusicAwards.com or call 07906 932 670. The African Gospel Music and Media Awards 2018, celebrating excellence. Clap your hands and dance it.
Hi, this is Rodney Hines.
And I'm Michael.
Join us on the Voice of Sports show each and every Saturday on ABN Radio. We'll keep you bang up to date with all the latest football scores and we'll discuss all the big talking points in the world of sport. So don't forget, join us this Saturday, 4 till 6 on ABN Radio UK.
You're listening to The Discourse with me, Esther Alade. It's Friday the 18th of May. So last week I got it wrong and I said Prince Harry was getting married. But it's actually this weekend the Prince is getting married. And yeah, we wish them all the best. There's a lot of hype because she's black, but... Huh? What did you say?
No comment.
Okay. No comment. But today we've been talking about youth crime, mental health, and thank you so much, Jessica. Jessica Plummer has been here with us since morning, talking to us about her son, Shawuan Sammy-Plummer. He passed away 3 years ago due to intoxication with knife crime, and the guy who did it is waiting to be sentenced.
No, he had the sentencing done. I think it was on the 26th of April 2016.
Okay.
2016, yeah. He got sentenced to 24 years.
24 years.
Life without parole, and he has to serve the full 24 years before they consider parole.
It's a good outcome, yeah. It helps people nodding, but what a waste of a potential life.
Yeah.
You know, we've lost a life in that intoxication, in whatever's happened. And like we were saying just before the break,
But they're still in denial, though, because the mom is thinking that he never killed my son.
But he's admitted to killing him, though.
No, he keeps saying he never.
So what did he say he did? Because if he's the one that stabbed him...
Yeah, but he was found guilty by the court of law. But I think the law need to change. Life should mean life. Why should people like me and other mothers suffer because of one person's? I won't say it was a mistake because he knew what he was doing.
So it was intentional. Yeah, but the thing is,
how do you say it? Premeditated.
Yeah, premeditated, because he went after him. Yeah,
very sad.
Which is sad because you've raised your child in terms of you know, ensuring that he presents you well, but not only that he's a gift to the world. He treats people how you would like people to be treated, or etc. So you installed of him good morals, etc. And for that to then, I'm sorry for your loss. I am truly sorry, but I guess it's a reflection of looking at different homes. And we had Aaron on the phone who was quite intentional, and he gave us steps about parenting, ensuring that you're intentional about your parenting, knowing your child's potential, understanding your child's gifts, which is the things that you did. And then you honed up and you said you sought help in the beginning when you were were struggling. You took parental classes.
It wasn't perfect. They made mistakes because Shawuan used to get into trouble in fights in school. But I made it my duty to go into the school and address the problem. Where they tell you he did wrong, okay, you have to, okay, you don't like it because they're saying you think your children is always right, but they're not always right.
Yeah.
But we need to own up to our children's mistakes. Stop hiding it.
Yeah.
So we need to go out there and, like, yes, we're representing them, but do it in the proper way.
Right, yeah. Okay, and we spoke about mental health as well, understanding the triggers, talking to your children. We're all for searching children's belongings.
Sort of.
To find out what's going on. And if you do find something that you're not happy about, you question, you sit down, you have a dialogue rather than a confrontation.
You discuss with your children, because I think it's very easy for your child to become defensive if you come on the defense. Why are you doing this? And you go off and you go off and you go off. I'm not saying don't be angry, because sometimes your child needs to know that this is unacceptable and I'm upset about this.
Yeah.
But in the same breath, like, if you don't give your child scope to discuss with you, understand, and get some understanding from, okay, why are they doing this? Not just what do you want to get, but what do they want to gain from it? Where did they get this information from? Like, what's going on with them emotionally? What makes them feel that they need to resort to this or that? And these are the kind of conversations that we need to be having, deeper conversations. But to be honest, it's going to be difficult to have that kind of conversation with your child if you don't know them, because you're going to say, what's going on with you? Tell me, you can talk to me. And they're going to look at you and say, we've never had a conversation like this before. You've never asked me about how I feel about things before. And they may well lie, compared to if you have a good relationship with your child and you ask them what's wrong, they may actually tell you.
Let me stop you there. We've got a call. Do you guys want to put your headset on?
Yeah.
So we've got Reverend Isaac on the line. Morning, Reverend.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
Fantastic. So Reverend is from Synergy Network. So it's a gathering of and youth forum. So you're doing a night to hear why and how young people get involved in youth violence.
That's correct.
Okay. So go on. You go.
I think for myself and my colleagues, it's a lot of people been talking about young people.
Yeah, but not talking to them.
But not talking to them or hearing from them. As a street pastor, as someone who actually walked the streets and engaged with young people, I meet a lot of young people, and I just want to just put things into context. I met up with some young men, and they were there in the evening, and I was talking to them, and they said to me, no one gives a damn. I said, why not? He said, where are they? They don't come to us. They want us to come to them, but they don't come to us. Okay, and that's a very important message that, and as you were discussing in your last discussion, if we're not prepared to engage with young people on their level, then, they're saying to themselves, we're not going to engage with you. So that's important. The other thing is that, I go at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, what I call the twilight zone, and I meet 8-year-olds on the streets. And I'm talking to them, and I'm listening to them. I'm trying to understand their situation, their context. And, what is very obvious is that people are not listening to them. They're not listening.
Yeah.
People are telling them things, but they're not listening. They don't feel the space is being created for them to really articulate, their challenges, their difficulties, their pain. And I always said to people, I remember when I was 7, I was speaking to an school assembly a few weeks ago, and I said, listen, when I was 7 years of age, something very traumatic happened. My father left my mother.
Okay.
And that was incredibly traumatic. But I remembered, because in my cultural context, children were seen and not heard.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was painful. And I remember, saying to myself, I was unable to articulate the way I felt. I was unable to express it. No one saw me as part of the whole pain of what was happening. And at the age of 7, I said to myself, if ever I get married, if ever I grow up, if ever I have children, I would never ever want to leave them, because I would never want them to go through what I went through. You see? And so that taught me a very important lesson. So when we had our children, we made it very clear to them they could tell us anything, they could say anything, as long as they're not disrespectful. And we told them, you have a mind, you have an intellect, you have views, you have opinions. You need to articulate those, and you need to ask questions so that we could reason, and so we as parents could also be accountable to you about the decisions we're taking, you know, as a family and as decisions as parents towards you both.
Sometimes I think also that as adults we expect children to process things the way that we process things.
Exactly.
Like, it's just life. You need to get it. But it's like, no, for a child, these things can be really, really traumatizing. We can't expect them to have the same level of like emotional processing and all of those things that we do, because we're adults. They haven't developed that yet. They need to learn, you know, and sometimes it's like, just get over it. And you're like, no, but you know, for children it's not that easy, you know.
And the perfect example of that is when, you know, parents split up. You know, a boyfriend or girlfriend, a partner, and they have a child, and they split up, and the child is used to both of them, you know, being around, and everyone's rowing, everyone's split up, everyone's got their pain, but no one is considering how does that child feel, and it's after that trauma, anger comes. So one of the things that we're looking at, we're saying, let's create the space, and we're asking church leaders, adults, elders to come along and listen to young people, and after you listen, you ask them the questions so that they could articulate why is it that they got involved in youth crime. Why is it they felt it necessary to carry a knife or a gun, or, you know, their anger? And I tell you, as we listen to them, you know, I'm hoping that many adults, if not all, would say, actually, I need to do more listening. Young people are craving for life. They want to eat with adults, talk with adults, do things with adults. And then they become comfortable to share what's really going on in their lives.
Okay. And this gathering is happening on the 24th of May.
That's correct. It's happening at St. Mark's Church, opposite the Oval Tube Station, and it starts at 6:30. With the doors, you know, will be open by 6:30, 6:45, start until 9 o'clock, and it's at 337 Kennington Park Road, London, SE11 4PW. The church is right opposite the Oval Tube Station.
Okay. Fantastic. And what do you hope to achieve at the end of the event? What's you going to do going forward?
Well, you know, one of the things that we've been doing, particularly with our Synergy Network, we've been meeting with various people who are doing some sort of initiatives, and we're saying to people, listen, you know, this task that we have before us, the government cannot do it on their own, the police won't do it on their own, you know, your organization or your project will not do it on its own. We need real synergy, real collaboration and partnership. And we're saying to organizations and individuals, listen, why don't you seriously consider partnering with people, joining with others, so that in your borough, in your area, you could have a more effective push to stem this challenge. Okay? Because that is the challenge. One of the challenges we have, you know, everybody's doing things, but nobody's talking about to each other. And, you know, children, you talk to one people, they tell you one thing, you talk to the next, there's not enough. So we're hoping that people come together, they'll talk together, and they'll see the need to join forces together in terms of synergy, to work together to help young people in the long run. Because this problem that we have is not a 2-year problem. It's not a 5-year, it's a 10, 20-year problem.
Okay.
I had I met with a young man in Birmingham 17 years ago, and he said to me, look, you know, we have a lot of bad people out here. We need more good people. But but there's also an emphasis on families. how do we help families to really, help their children? And I think we've got to really understand that this is a long-term strategy rather than a short-term.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you, Pastor Reverend Isaac. Jessica was saying the same thing because Jessica has a foundation for her son. She lost her son in 2015. So she has a Shawuan Sammy-Plummer Foundation, and she goes into school speaking to young people about it as well. So maybe I'll find a way to connect you both, because exactly what you said is what she said in regards to so many people doing different things and not everybody knowing what people are doing. It'll be nice for everyone to come together and maybe share some tools, what's worked, what hasn't worked.
Exactly.
You know?
Those are the kind of things that Synergy is facilitating.
Okay, fantastic.
We've been meeting with people, sometimes 100 different groups come together. We eat together.
Yeah.
It's about relationship.
Fantastic.
We seek to understand each other, our worldviews and what we're doing, our ethos. And then, we do things together and we look at, if we do these things, how effective, is the outcomes more effective than if we do it on our own?
Yeah.
I get people ringing our offices up all the time at Ascension Trust here. I live in North London. I live in East London. My son is involved. Who could help me?
Yeah.
And sometimes we're struggling to find out who are the people on the ground that we could say, let's call them up. They're right there.
Because our children need love, and they're going about it in the wrong way.
That's right. But you see, the thing is, one mom cannot do it on her own. One organization cannot do it on her own. I tell people, I was born in the West Indies. And when I spent 6 years of my life in the West Indies. And I remember those very memorable times. Now, if I misbehave coming home from school, and these were not the days of the mobile phone and internet and Instagram and Snapchat. If I misbehave, by the time I got home, my grandmother knew that I misbehaved.
It's true. I was brought up in the West Indies too.
That's right. And if I misbehave, somebody could meet me, give me a cuff around my head and say, boy, behave yourself. And when I get home...
And you cannot react to that.
Exactly. And people expect us to behave as a village. We look after each other. Yeah. I didn't tell my mother or father or my grandmother that Mr. So-and-so rebuked me. I didn't tell her that. You see? And we've got to work together. This is how communities thrive, because we have relationships. We're doing things, so we're looking out for each other's children.
Yeah.
You see? Mom is coming home from work. We've got to a stage where mom is coming home from work. Because of the lack of relationship, we can't ask our next mom to collect my daughter, give her some food, and bring her home. And vice versa. You see, we're reliant on thin air because of the lack of community.
Yeah. Okay, Reverend, thank you so much, because the show was meant to end at 10. It's now 10:30. We're going on to 1:45, and I'm conscious of time because these two lovely ladies have come a very long way to be with me this morning. Yes. So thankful for them, and thank you. So it's Synergy. The event is Synergy, and it's happening. Let me read the event properly.
24th of May.
24th of May, and it's a gathering, Synergy Network gathering of youth forum, and it's at St Mark's Church opposite Oval Tube Station.
That's correct.
And they can contact you at info at, what's the email?
info@ascensiontrust.org.uk.
Fantastic. Any social media platforms?
Yes, they look for street pastors, look for Ascension Trust, it's all there.
Okay.
But they could book in online at Eventbrite. Just go up to the Ascension Trust and look at that, and you'll see it on the Synergy Net.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Reverend.
Thank you very much.
Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you.
Lord bless you all.
Thank you. The same to you. Thanks.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye. Okay, let's try and round up before we get carried away. So I'm going to get you both to sum up the whole thing. So if you tell us more about your foundation as well, where we can find you, if people need more information, exactly what you do. I can read it. Let me read it. So Jessica's got the Shawuan Sammy-Plummer Foundation, and it's the email is SHAQUAN Foundation, so Shawuan Foundation @gmail.com, and it's also on Facebook, which is Shawuan Sammy-Plummer Foundation. Foundation, and also Jessica Plummer on Facebook as well, so you can follow her and you can get more information about how you can get involved. And I think it's honourable what you're doing. Sorry for your loss, and the fact that you're using this as a platform is amazing. And I pray that you get the healing that you need, and to be able to move on from this. It's difficult, a loss of anything, and not alone a child that you've been looking forward to growing up, and
seeing what they've been.
But you can see it in the works that you do, so that's a blessing in itself. And I hope that you can hold on to that, and hope that will help you to heal. But yeah,
I'm not doing it on my own. I've got friends, family,
fantastic,
different organization where I go to, we all come together and try and create changes.
Okay. Anything you want to say to us? Any leaving comments?
Thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you for coming.
And I hope we get the message across.
Yes.
And like I say, as a community, we can all come together and try and create changes.
Fantastic.
And parents, please pay more attention to your children. Go into their room, make it your duty, call them to find out where they are, what they're doing, and try and see if they can stay more focused in education, and think about life and not the knife or a gun. Life is more important. Choose life first.
So think about the life, not the
knife or a gun.
Like that. And what about you, Christina?
So, thank you for having me, Esther. It's been really fun. I've really enjoyed the conversation. It's interesting that it took a turn into parenting. It was really enlightening. I mean, obviously, I'm not a mother, but I commend you for sharing your story and really, communicating to everyone what it is that you went through and using that to really bless everyone. So I thank you for that. And I guess I just want to say that it's really, really important to offer empathy to your children. Like Jessica said, notice your children, pay attention to them. If you see subtle differences in their behavior, if they're more withdrawn, if they're more quiet, if they're isolating themselves, if they seem down, and this persists, especially for a long period of time, it's time to have a conversation with them, talk to them, let them know that their emotions and their thoughts and their feelings are valued, and that you care about what they think and what they feel, even if you think it's wrong. We need to really communicate more with them. And if you want to check me out, I have a blog. It's called Chrissy Speaks. You can find me, it's called chrissyspeaks.com, and you can also find me on Twitter under that name, and my Instagram is at Christiana CCCICI. So yeah, that's all. But thank you, Esther, for having me.
Thank you for coming.
I really enjoyed it.
We'll probably go more into detail. We'll do another one.
Yes,
that's more mental health.
Yes.
So in terms of beauty.
Yes.
In terms of the whole thing. Yeah.
I'll be right here.
But seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, ladies, because I know you've both come a long way. They've come from north of the river, people, to come and join me in the south of the river, and that's commendable. So early in the morning as well. So it's been a great show. We've learned some really important things from David and Chris. I must thank David and Chris also, who's got their show on at Old Street. Thank you, Old Street at the Courtyard Theatre, and that's on tonight. It's £15, £12 if you're a student, and it's also on tomorrow evening as well, 7:30. I think the show starts. But you can check them out on our Facebook or Twitter handle or Instagram handle to get more information. But today, literally, I'm just going to sum it up. We had Aaron, who was very who gave us a tough time. But we liked Aaron for giving us a tough time, and we had Bright, who also called in as well, which was great, and another lady, I can't remember, Shanette, who also called in. So thank you all for your contribution. And what we've taken away is that parenting should be intentional. God's given you a gift in terms of your child. That child is a gift. Make sure you have a clear plan for your child, but not only that, in terms of mental health as well, let your child be who they are. Don't enforce certain things on them. Let them be free to communicate with you as well. And Jessica's very much for searching the homes, searching the bags, anything you can search to find out and know where your child is at, and could dialogue, communication, checking up on them constantly, going to the school, being part of what's happening, listening to the teachers and seeing
and asking them about their day, how they've been.
So emotional support as well. It's important.
So important.
Yeah, and I'm going to leave it with what you said. Think about the life
and not the knife or a gun.
So anyone out there, it's about think about the life, not the knife or a gun. So if you're feeling like you need to protect yourself in any shape or form, then if you're feeling like that, that's the time to get help, to actually speak to somebody, because there's something deeper going on around you. Because having a knife, it's potentially going to lose a life, and not only that, you end up in prison for life. So it's not a win-win situation at all. So you've been listening to The Discourse with me this morning, Esther Alade, Friday the 18th of May. I am here every Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you once again, ladies.
Welcome.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Christina. And have a fantastic weekend. And thank you for everyone behind the scene that's helping me here. You know, there's been a lot of moving parts, but thank you all so much. Have a lovely weekend.
And the same to you.
Take care.
Bye.
Tune in to the new